Hello everyone. Is it raining cats and dogs now? Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm in the room now and there is no scope to rain cats and dogs, isn't it? But if I ask you the meaning of the phrase raining cats and dogs, you can easily answer, okay? That means when it rains heavily, we use the phrase raining cats and dogs. It is very familiar to us. But if I ask the story behind the phrase raining cats and dogs, can you make the answer? I think 99% people don't make the answer that the story behind the phrases. Today I am going to share the story behind some popular phrases. So, I would like to request all of you to pay attention to my today's video, and as well as I would like to request to subscribe my channel, please.
Raining cats and dogs, meaning, it's raining very heavily. Example of use, we had to cancel the picnic because it was raining cats and dogs. Story behind the phrase. The phrase's origin is somewhat unclear, but one theory is that in 17th century England, heavy rain would sometimes wash out the streets and carry along dead animals like cats and dogs, leading to the colorful imagery of the phrase. Another theory ties it to Norse mythology where cats symbolized heavy rain and dogs represented wind. Caught red-handed, meaning, to be caught in the act of doing something wrong or illegal. Example of use, he was caught red-handed trying to steal money from the cash register. Story behind the phrase. This phrase dates back to 15th century Scotland and refers to someone caught with blood on their hands after committing a murder or poaching. Being caught red-handed was literally having blood on one's hands, providing undeniable evidence of guilt. It's a piece of cake, meaning, something that is very easy to complete. Example of use, the boy found the project to be a piece of cake because it was incredibly easy. The story behind this phrase, a piece of cake, likely originated in the Royal Air Force, RAF, during World War II, where completing missions earned pilots cake slices. Today, it describes simple or effortless tasks. Cats out of the bag, meaning, to reveal a secret carelessly or by mistake. Example of use, the mayor's visit was to be kept strictly confidential, but someone must have let the cat out of the bag, because the airport was swarming with reporters. The story behind this phrase. The expression appears to originate in medieval England when peasants farming the land were required to give a large part of their income to the lord of the manor. Some tried to avoid declaring all their animals and frequently took them off to sell them illegally at a market or at a butcher's shop. Young pigs were often sold in this way and were carried in sacks to the market. As the sales were illegal on the part of both buyer and seller, they were often carried out at great speed, and sometimes it was possible to sell a cat instead of a much more valuable pig because the buyer did not look in the bag before the sale. They did, however, and the cat jumped out. The secret was revealed. Kick the bucket, meaning, a euphemistic way of saying someone has died. Example of use, he finally kicked the bucket after a long illness. Story behind the phrase. The origin of this phrase is somewhat morbid. One explanation is that it comes from the method of suicide or execution where a person stands on a bucket with a noose around their neck and then kicks the bucket away, causing hanging. Another theory ties it to the slaughtering of animals where, kicking the bucket, refers to the bucket used to collect the blood during butchering. Under the weather, meaning, feeling ill or unwell. Example of use, she's been feeling a bit under the weather, so she's staying home today. Story behind the phrase. This nautical phrase comes from the days of sailing ships. When sailors were sick, they were often sent below deck to recover, away from the harsh weather. Therefore, being under the weather meant being ill and out of commission. Butter someone up, meaning, to flatter someone excessively in order to gain favor or advantage. Example of use, he tried to butter up his boss to get a promotion. Story behind the phrase. This phrase likely originates from an ancient Indian custom in which people would throw balls of clarified butter, ghee, at statues of the gods to seek favor and forgiveness. The act of applying butter was seen as a way to make the gods more favorable towards them. The whole 9 yards, meaning, to do something thoroughly or completely. Example of use, she went the whole 9 yards to make sure the event was perfect. Story behind the phrase. The origin of this phrase is debated, but one popular theory links it to World War II fighter pilots. The ammunition belts for their machine guns were 9 yards long, so if a pilot used up all their ammunition in a single mission, they went the whole 9 yards. Barking up the wrong tree, meaning, to pursue a mistaken or misguided course of action. Example of use, if you think I'm the one who broke the vase, you're barking up the wrong tree. Story behind the phrase. This phrase comes from hunting dogs in the 19th century. If a dog barked up a tree, it indicated that the prey had taken refuge there. However, sometimes dogs would bark up the wrong tree, thinking the prey was there when it wasn't. A pig in a poke, meaning, buying something without inspecting it first, often leading to disappointment or being swindled. Example of use, he bought the used car without a test drive, and it turned out to be a pig in a poke. Story behind the phrase. The phrase, a pig in a poke, dates back to the Middle Ages. At markets, unscrupulous sellers would sometimes try to sell a cat in a bag, a poke, instead of a piglet. If the buyer didn't check the contents of the bag before purchase, they might end up with a cat instead of a pig, hence the warning against buying a pig in a poke. The phrase serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of inspecting goods before buying them to avoid being deceived.